Charles, in free agency, still a bunch of big names who remain unsigned. Another potential impact player is now on the market. Former Pro Bowl cornerback James Bradberry released by the Giants. Pete Prisco has him ranked as a top 3 free agent right now after that release. Who could use him?
Oh, boy. Here's what I would think, Chris, because I think a number of teams could. But you notice they all waited until the post-draft before they made a move. That's why there was no quote-unquote market for James Bradberry. If this were a different time frame, there would have been a trade for him. There would have been something, there would have been a negotiation to bring him to another franchise. I'm going to give you the formula. I think a team that's loaded with young corners that have to learn how to become professionals, guys who need a little bit of guidance, need a veteran person in there, a team that that stays in a division where teams like to run the football because James Bradberry is an excellent tackler out on the corner. I think those types of teams will have a market for him. I think of Minnesota Vikings. Patrick Peterson's still there on another 1-year deal to help mentor, but Bradberry has more than that to give. He could be that guy in the room. How about a Houston Texans team that had a really solid draft and looks like they're trying to join the ranks of the NFL again? James Bradberry in their room, being able to mentor a Derek Stingley, who they just drafted at number 3 overall. How about the Jacksonville Jaguars, who needed a complete and total reset in what they're doing, how to be professionals, to tamp down all the turmoil that Urban Meyer and his regime brought and left scorched earth? James Bradberry would be ideal at a place like that. Those are the types of programs, the types of places. That's my formula for James Bradberry. And I love where Pete has him ranked. He is one of the top free agents out there.
So he joins the market along with guys like Akeem Hicks. You got Clowney, you got OBJ. You see any good landing spots for these guys with big names?
Listen, again, the draft had to occur for these guys to find their spots. And I think most of them, Chris, will be on 1-year type contracts. Can you fit in, be that veteran to either help push us into the playoffs or over the top? Can you be that guy to help us in a room? That sort of a thing. That's what I think of with an Akeem Hicks. Clowney will be an interesting deal because now we're not evaluating him as a guy who's going to bring you double-digit sacks. He's never done that. But as a good, solid professional who can play the run as well as any defensive end in the league and give you that type of play and maybe some spots of splash plays, he would be a guy there. I think an OBJ is going to be in play at a lot of places. And in Green Bay, remember, they waited till the second round before they went for receivers. It's a new regime there where Brian Gutekunst's running things. That might not be a bad spot for him. Aaron Rodgers and OBJ, I think that would be a lot of fun. And they can afford to wait a little while he heals up from the knee injury. Dwayne Brown, I think Indianapolis would be sensational for him. I know they drafted Bernard Ryman out of Central Michigan, who's 25 years old. Would you imagine getting Dwayne Brown for a year there to teach that young man how to play left tackle in the league for a Colts team that's going to run the football down your throat if at all possible? I love all those possibilities and all those aspects. And last but not least, Gronk. Come on, we all know it's either Tampa Bay or bust.
Yeah, no question about it. Gronk had his beach party. Our social media team was out there, tried to pin him down on what he was going to do.
I was there. I was in Las Vegas. No invite.
Really? Wow.
I'm looking for the mail. Did it get delayed? I know the Postal Service had some issues, but somehow, not even Dad. Dad didn't even call and say, come on by.
That's crazy, Charles, because even I had an invite to the Gronk party, but I got sick, so I couldn't go, unfortunately.
I couldn't even be your +1.
Amanda went in my place. Hey, let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens here, who, of course, traded away Hollywood Brown. And there are reports now that they're interested in signing Jarvis Landry. What could he do potentially for Lamar Jackson in that offense?
He can do so many things, and I'll start with what he can do for Baltimore overall. He fits the Ravens franchise because, they're all about toughness, and toughness is real, not toughness that's imagined, not toughness that you talk about. It's doing it day in, day out, play in, play out, you name it. And Jarvis Landry fits that perfectly. Who could ever forget his talk to the receivers on Hard Knocks when he was in Cleveland about being a professional and how to conduct yourself? And remember, they were in the midst of a massive losing streak. They weren't a good franchise at all, and he was still carrying himself like he was a Super Bowl champion. Second part is what he gives them on the field. They love to run the football. His toughness blocking will help increase that. Of course, his ability to make difficult catches across the middle and downfield, anything contested, juice tends to come up with that. And last but not least, he will help Lamar Jackson by making all those types of catches, by being dependable in there each and every day, sitting with this young man and telling him just to cut it loose. And at times, they need to have that ball go downfield, and big plays have to result. Landry's not your burner, but he still can create big plays downfield with his catches and then what he does after the catch. I think he'd be a great one because he fits so perfectly because they want to throw the ball much more towards the hashes than they do to the perimeter. And that's where Jarvis Landry lives, along with Mark Andrews, their excellent tight end.
Do you think if they do get Jarvis Landry, is that enough in your mind for Lamar Jackson to work with? We know he's got Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league, but still kind of lacking at the pass catcher position, especially at wide receiver. Is that enough for Lamar to take this team where they want him to go?
It's enough, Chris, if Rashad Bateman fulfills his promise as a #1 draft choice, if they can create bigger plays outside on the perimeter. Is that Devin Duvernay jumping up to do that? Is that James Prochet? I still think one burner on the outside would be huge for the Baltimore Ravens. But if you have that burner, you have to throw it out there to him as well. And that's where Lamar has to increase his play too.
Well, look, if you think Lamar has a lack of options, let's look at what Justin Fields has in Chicago. And I say that as a Bears fan. All right, Darnell Mooney, good story. He's their #1 target right now, but it's Equanimeous St. Brown. It's Byron Pringle. But new offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, he says his system is going to solve all that. Are you buying that when you look at what this young quarterback who was really in over his head with the offensive line and the lack of options last season, can an offensive coordinator's scheme make that big of a difference?
It can help. It can definitely help. And we have to go back and trace where Luke Getsy came from, right, Chris? He came from Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers was there. Now, we're not making Justin Fields Aaron Rodgers by any stretch just yet, okay? He's got a lot to prove. But in Green Bay, what did we say each and every year about their receiving core? It felt like they've got to add to it. They've got to get people. Aaron Rodgers is making this happen with other guys. Allen Lazard was an undrafted free agent who's developed, and now he's wide receiver 1 until proven differently in Green Bay. But what Aaron had for a lot of his career, he had that dependable guy, that go-to guy, that Jordy Nelson type of a player who was better than what people ranked him coming out of college. So when you take the Bears now and you're saying, okay, we're going to help Justin Fields, we're going to spread it around to the guys you talked about. Can Velus Jones develop into a dependable target coming out of Tennessee, 3rd-round pick? We know he's going to replace Cordero Patterson's kick return ability in a lot of ways, although at that level, it's hard to beat because Cordero Patterson, he's like Devin Hester. If you're just going Hall of Fame return guys, those guys are in that category. But Velus has that type of potential to be an excellent one, but can't develop more as a receiver. Can they get more out of David Moore? And they get more out of Daz Newsome when they drafted out North Carolina last year. By system, by moving the ball around, by spreading it to different spots, making everyone part of it. The last analogy, Chris, in basketball, when you start a game, you like for everyone to touch the ball early to get them into the flow. Al McGuire used to call it everybody get touches. That's what you're trying to do with these receivers, and then have some of those lightning plays that Darnell Mooney can give you over the top. And hoping Velus Jones can increase that as well.
Look, I hope Getsy's right, but I'm not holding my breath. Charles Davis with us here on CBS Sports HQ. Thank you, man. We'll check out Charles again later on throughout the week as we talk free agents who are still available in the NFL. You can check out the Pick Six podcast with Will Brinson. Very latest episode joined by John Breach. They don't talk all kickers with Breach on the show. It's more on veteran free agent wide receiver fits and what we know so far about the upcoming NFL schedule, which will be released in full on Thursday.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.